Hello, everybody. Stu Smith here. Happy Tuesday. Another combat swimmer stroke critique show, as well as the live Q&A. You guys can ask questions at any time. I'll get to them, but while I wait for you guys to congregate, let me just share a little bit about what I did this morning. So this morning, I did another guest PT workout at the Naval Academy with about 800 high school students, another 100 midshipmen that are putting them through a week of the Naval Academy life. These are high school students who are recruits or candidates for the Naval Academy, and they've done many things this week, from sitting in classrooms, sailing, obstacle courses, physical fitness, just living the life of a freshman for a little bit, and then seeing some of the good sides of it as well. But anyway, I've been part of this program for over 25 years, just being a guest PT or on their last PT of their time here. And so what I do is try to go in there and teach them a few things. And instead of just beating them down with endless push-ups and flutter kicks, which you can do, you're somewhat limited when you have this big of a group. So if you ever have a big group that you're working on PTing with, you can run in big groups. You can do push-ups and sit-ups and flutter kicks and leg levers and burpees and um, you know all those basic calisthenics that are a lot squats and lunges, things like that. So what I do with them is I get them warmed up with a series of push-ups and squats. We can do jumping jacks, or we do what's called round trips, which is kind of a unique way to run with a big group. So think of it, if you have like 30 people in a 30 rows filled with 30 people. It's about what we have out there. And each row's 30 people. So how do you run them? And we do what's called round trips. So you have a cone in front of the first person, and you have a cone behind the last person, and they're all spread out across a whole football field. And so the first person runs around the cone, everybody follows them. So it's almost like you're doing laps in a swimming pool. If you have more than two people swimming circles, you're just running circles. It's a great way to pick up, 300-400 yards um, in between sets of pushing and sit-ups and things like that. But probably the hardest thing that we do is called death by push-ups. If you're not familiar with death by push-ups, it is more of a mental challenge than the name. It's kind of a silly name personally, but it's it's kind of a fun one too. So here's how it works. You get in a plank pose for 10 minutes, right? So you can be in two positions. You can be in a plank pose, or you can be in the up push-up position. Then every minute on the minute, you do 10 push-ups. So in 10 minutes, you've gotten 10 minutes of plank and 100 push-ups under your belt. That is what we do. Now, you can do it another way too. A lot of these people aren't quite ready for 100 push-ups yet, so I give them the option of pyramiding each set. So you can start at 10, then go to 9, then to 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Still get 55 push-ups that way, but it's a good way to kind of break up when you have a big group. That way you're going to have a spectrum of fitness. You're going to have people who have done nothing to really prepare for this, and you've had people who are athletes and wrestlers and great physical condition and can push themselves a little bit harder than most people. So that is a lot of, when you have big groups like that, you definitely want to create a program that gives people options um, in order to challenge those who are well prepared, as well as not break the ones that aren't. Um, it's kind of a delicate balance. Usually, most of the very fit people are like, yeah, that was good. Then the unfit people say that killed me. Um, and you get all types in between. But my goal is not to crush them. It is to introduce them to tips that are going to allow them to create strategies in future testing. So I always tell them the story of I failed my first fitness test in the military. I was a freshman at the academy going through plebe summer, took my first fitness test and failed sit ups. Passed everything else, but I failed sit ups. And the reason why I failed sit ups was I did not pace myself. So I think I got 60 in 2 minutes. I had to get 65. But in the first 30 seconds, I had 38 in the first 30 seconds. And I did not come close to matching that in the next minute and a half. So one of the instructors, a detailer, just a senior midshipman, said, "Hey, Smith, you started off too fast. Let's pace yourself." So I tell the story and I teach them. I said, let's try to practice the pace. So, the next test I took, I got 80 in 2 minutes, and all I did was pace myself. I didn't get better at sit ups, I just got smarter at sit ups. So that is a lot of the little tips in there, proper placement for push ups and, you know, getting better at pull ups, even though we couldn't do pull ups there. Talk about some of the alternative lifts you can do and ways to get your body used to doing pull ups. Nothing groundbreaking, just some basic things that some people may not have ever heard before. And I also realize many of these folks is probably their first week of really learning about military fitness tests and fitness training. So I want to make this an educational moment versus just beating them down and saying, I don't ever want to come back and do that again. Um, but I will say death by push-ups is pushing that line because it's tough. I've saw many people laying on the floor because they were done and couldn't do any more push-ups, couldn't plank it anymore. And I said, just try to keep keep in the position, even if you have to go to your knees. So there's always ways to scale it up or scale it down. And I think as an instructor, you just have to be um, aware of that so you're not making it too easy for the fit people and too difficult for the weak people. So there you go. That's what I did this morning. A lot of fun. I'll write an article about that this morning and show you exactly how I broke it down and challenged them. Um, let's see here. Want to say thank you so much. Your book has been a great help to prepare for OCS and max the PAT. Oh, nice. Thank you. Is it possible to join in on training? Not that training. You have to be a high school candidate for the Naval Academy to do that training. Now, I do have local training. If you go to heroesoftomorrow.org, you'll see if you're preparing to serve or served or in the active duty, military, law enforcement, firefighter, you can join us. And guess what? Can't argue with the price because it is free. They're basically my workouts. I just invite people to join. Today we had over 20 people that met me after this workout, and we got after a pull-up workout that was pretty challenging as well. Let's see. Any more questions over here on Instagram? Hoo-yah, Summer Seminar. Cool. What was your max bench? That's always a great question. I remember in my teens, it really meant something. Now it doesn't really matter. Now, I never got 400 pounds on my bench. I did get 385, and I weighed 190. So 2 times my body weight was kind of my goal that summer, and I got it. So that was my max bench ever. And right about then, I jacked up my shoulder, not from benching, just from something else, and I never got heavier again than probably 335. Just wasn't quite right. I didn't want to hurt it any worse. I could still bench, and I was happy with it. So now about as heavy as I go, is 225, and I try to go for reps, almost like my own little combine. And that, I've gotten 15 in the last year. Um, 15 at 225. Not great, but not horrible either. I'm pretty happy with it at 55 years old. Do you have fit young athletes coming up asking about buds after group PT? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Tons of them. I try to high five all of them as they're leaving the field. So it's a good group. You can see the ones that were prepared and the ones that were not. Do you have a chart that shows weights you should be able to lift depending on your height, weight to prep for buds? I don't. I have an assessment tool that you will see, and it's going to depending on your body weight. So if you guys check out, where are you? Shoot. Okay, so if you guys check out this assessment tool, and it's called Physical Assessment Tools to and through Selection. Check this out, and you'll see there's calisthenics, there's cardio events, run, ruck, swim, there's weight vest calisthenics, like weight vest pull-ups, there's body weight bench, try to get body weight bench double digits, so 10 to 20. If you can get over 20, that's kind of the gold standard. I've actually seen people get 40 of their body weight bench, which is, I guess that would be called what? Platinum standard. I don't know which ones are worth more. And then there's 1.5 to 2.0 times your body weight in deadlift and bench, deadlift and squats. 3 RM, not max reps, 3 RM. So, and then there's some other workouts in there too, like your Devil's Mile and your Sand Baby Devil Murph. It just helps you prepare for log PT and boats. All right, so what's more beneficial, weighted pull-ups or increased volume hang and holds? You know what, Mark? I'm going to say both. I think both are beneficial, and it kind of depends on the athlete to, like if you're stuck at pull-ups, how do you get unstuck at pull-ups? Usually it's by changing something that you're doing. Do you add weight to pull-ups? Yes, great answer. Do you add more volume to pull-ups? Yes, great answer. It kind of depends on your athletic history. Are you more of a strength guy? You probably have the strength needed, so maybe weighted pull-ups aren't the answer, and you need more volume. Or are you more of an endurance guy? You got the muscle stamina, but maybe you need a little more strength, so maybe weight vests would be optional, better option for you. Unfortunately, there's no one answer which is more beneficial. The one that's more beneficial is the one that works. So my advice is try both. Maybe not at the same time, but try a cycle of weighted pull-ups for a month, see what happens. Try a cycle of more volume over a month, see what happens. That's what we do. We do both methods. In complete guide to Navy SEAL fitness, how long do you rest in between sets in the 4-mile track workout? Not much. Usually it's a 100-meter walk is our rest. And that usually takes a minute, minute and a half, maybe. Another way of doing it is rest for 50% of the time that you just ran. So if you're doing a mile and you did a mile in 6 minutes, you get 3 minutes rest. If you did a 400, you did it in 90 seconds, you got 45 seconds rest. So it's a 2-to-1 work to rest ratio. Try to build up to that. Like when you first start out, you may have to do a 1-to-1 work to rest ratio, but try to build up to a 1-to-2. And eventually you can even build up to jogging and resting. So if you're doing a quarter-mile run fast, try to catch your breath with a quarter-mile jog. That's when you know your conditioning's really starting to work. Kind of like same way with the 50-50s. When you do a 50 free hard and then you do a 50 CSS to try to catch your breath, there will be a beginning factor of that where you need to rest 15, 20 seconds at first. But then that should be decreasing significantly to where you're just getting a big inhale, a big exhale, and you go again. Eventually, you build up to that workout to where your CSS is your rest. You push hard on the free, rest on the CSS. So that's how the progression of aerobic, anaerobic training I like to do if you're looking for rest periods. What's the best run distance or technique to help drop time in your PST 1.5? If you go to running plan, I post this one often. Running plan to help you get to and through. You're going to see multiple options there. In fact, I'll put a link in here for you. And I'll put a link in here in the YouTube, Facebook section as well. This is just a running plan that has goal pace running. It has hill running sprints, bleachers, leg PT, squats and lunges, air squats and lunges. And it also has some longer, slower distance running in it too. So it's a little mix of everything. That's what I would recommend. I would recommend working on your speed, your aerobic base, your pace, and muscle memory the pace. That's key. Just like I mentioned the sit-up pace, running and swimming is the exact same thing. You got to pace your swim, know your 50-second 50s, know your 90-second quarter miles or 400s, know your 6-minute mile pace, know your 7-minute mile pace, because you're going to have to resort to that whether you're doing a mile and a half in 9 minutes or you're doing a 4-mile run in 7-minute miles in 28 minutes. That it's all about pacing and learning that pace and getting in shape to maintain that pace. If legs are weakest, can you add extra exercises on leg days for Ranger SF program? Absolutely, if you can handle it. So a lot of times there's a lot of leg exercises in that Ranger SF program or any of these programs. I don't think I have a copy of it. So if you feel that volume is too easy, you can add some more volume to it. Add more sets, add more reps, add more distance to lunges. Sure. But if your legs are weak, it may be the right amount for you. Maybe more than you need. So it really kind of depends. There's no one answer to that. So you have to figure out how to adapt these programs to fit your abilities and your goals and your facilities and your time, because all of those can affect how I write a workout. I might say swim at the top, but there's no swimming pool available first thing when you start working out. You may have to swim last, later in the day, or as the second workout. If I say run 5 miles, you might say, holy crap, I don't run 5 miles in a week. That doesn't mean you should be running 5 miles in a generic workout plan. Maybe just run 1 or 2. So you have to make those adjustments according to your abilities, your facilities, and the time available to hit it. I promise you, if you do those workouts in those workouts, it will get you towards your goal. You just may have to make those adjustments accordingly so it fits you better, if that makes any sense. These aren't personalized programs. These are generic programs with a specific goal behind them. They may not fit you perfectly. They may fit you ideally in some situations like your swim or your run or your calisthenics, but you're going to have a weakness. One of those weaknesses may need to be adapted to fit your abilities when you're doing a generic workout program. Or you can do something more personalized, which is something that is usually um, not as inexpensive as, you know, an online program could be as anywhere from free to um, you know, $20 or more. You said this before, but what boots does Bud's pipeline use now? They use the Nike Combat Gen 2. Combat Generation 2. You can Google it. It's out there. All right, so looks like I got a couple more questions. In some SEAL workouts, you only run 3 times a week and swim 2 times a week. Yep. Just depends on which one I'm having. Right? My suggestion is if you want to see a more up-to-date version, this is it. Or this is even better. Because, you know, the workout that you're mentioning is now 25 years old. Not that it's bad. It's just I do things a little bit differently now over the last 25 years. You know, there's more than one way to get you to where you need to be. I don't have the way, I have a way. And I've written probably multiple ways to do it. Let's see, how to progress compound lifts such as deadlift, squat, and bench overhead to increase max strength. Yeah, 5x5s, 75, 80+% of 1 RM. Yep, that's great. Add in 2.5 to 5 pounds each week. Yep, that's the classic way of doing it. You know, I was a power lifter before I did any of this, and you know, we do everything from 5x5s, 5x3s. We do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1s, just getting heavier every time. We do 10, 8, 6, 4, 2. Then a series of what I call 2 pops, just 2, 2, 2, 2, getting heavier and heavier and heavier till you couldn't do 2 and it turned into 1. That's one of my favorites probably. Yeah, if you can add 5 to 2.5 to 5 pounds each week, that's great. That's a way to build strength. For the 90-day beginner program, you have additional supplemental training. Would I do those after the main workout and before the cool down, or would you get their own warm up and cool down? Good question. If you're able to, after you do the main workout in that, which is just a little square, should take you 20 minutes probably to complete it all. You want to add something else to it, do it immediately after and finish adding whatever you want to add to it. Could be running, could be pull-ups, could be more calisthenics, and then cool down after that. Joe, you ask crazy questions. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, I personally think running 3 times a week and swimming 2 times a week is not enough. Just depends on your abilities, though. If you're a beginner, that makes sense. If you are 6 months out from buds, that does not make sense. Hey, Stu, if someone was a strength athlete but have fallen out of exercising for some time, should they consider themselves a strength athlete or a clean slate? Good question. I would say you're probably a former strength athlete, and you're probably built to gain strength quickly. And you probably, even if you haven't lifted in a while, are still strong compared to somebody who has never lifted. I know that I've gone probably 18 months without lifting, and all I was doing was calisthenics and cardio, and I still was stronger than most people that would lift with me that weren't normal lifters. So there you go. Hey, let's do some CSS critiques. I have 3 ready to go. Make sure this is pulled up right. You guys can see this. All right, so we're going to kick off the wall. Got a lot of flutter kicks going on. Let me see how this streamline looks. Not bad. Kind of looking up a little high, you know, tuck your chin down. Sometimes that head just, it's like putting on the brakes when you're swimming. Now you see this constant flutter kicks? I thought he had fins on for a minute, but yeah, you don't want to flutter kick during your glide phase. So, plus that glide, look at this glide phase. This isn't a glide phase, this is a work phase. It should be a no work phase, the glide. You shouldn't have to kick at all. One of the reasons why he's probably losing momentum is that right there. Whoops. Notice this. See this? Notice his streamline position. I mean, he went from his hands on his hips to here, and this is just like swimming with the brakes on. Top arm, bottom arm, watch. Oh, man. Top arm, bottom arm, boom. Why can't I stop it? Let's try this. Top arm, bottom arm. And I cannot get this. There you go. So there's the top arm, bottom arm. Okay, now here we go. Like this recovery right here could be a lot closer to his body. Right? Tuck your head down and no flutter kicking. Like, you really want to do one kick per stroke. So it should be pull, breathe, kick, hold that glide. No kicking. And don't just sit there underwater holding your breath while you're kicking. This is going to make your heart skyrocket. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, pull. Not even pulling on 4 Mississippis. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, pull. That's when you should be pulling. You're going another 2 Mississippis after. So yeah, all you have to do to fix this is have a tighter arm recovery over your head. Put your head down when you're gliding, and quit flutter kicking. And this would be a really good stroke. You just need one kick right there. Quit flutter kicking. That's a good one. Good one to show, that is. Not a good one, necessarily. All right, let's see what we got here. Oh, now that's a streamline. Look at that. See, no flutter kicking. Just glide. Look at that. Just glide. Double arm pull. Transitions. Could be a little tighter on that arm recovery. And we got a one big kick. Oh, I like it. Top arm. Bottom arm. 1 Mississippi. 2 Mississippi. Pull. I will say this. You hold this position just a little too long. Right? So after you pull that top arm, start pulling the bottom arm right after it's done and begin your inhale during that bottom arm pull. Versus just sitting there. I mean, you're still gliding, which is nice, and you're not flutter kicking to get through it. What the hell is that on the bottom of the peak? All right. Could be a little tighter on the arm recovery from that breaststroke pullout. Top arm, bottom arm, kick and glide. So I like to go top arm, bottom arm, like you're gliding an extra second in that lead arm, trail arm position there, which isn't horrible. It's just a nitpicky critique that I have. Top arm, get your face out of the water after that top arm pull. I wish you would have been facing me the whole time instead of what that was. Why'd you look up and backwards? Yeah. No need to have your face looking up at the ceiling either. Just turn to breathe. There's a Christmas tree down there. What the hell? That's completely distracting. Top arm, bottom arm, kick. 1 Mississippi, 2. Pulling really too quick. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, pull. That was good. But you need to activate that bottom arm quicker. But this is good. You got a good kick, good glide. I like it. Just speed up that bottom arm. That's not bad, though.
Shit.
All right, let's see what else we got. I'll just stop sharing. Let me see if I got any more questions over here. I'll pull up the next one for get it ready for next time. All right, where are you? guys over at Instagram, you guys got questions? No questions over here. Can people send you treading videos to critique like egg beater? Yeah, but if you do, have an underwater camera. Use a GoPro. I don't know. Use some waterproof container. Otherwise, I really can't see what you're doing from the top. I can try, but it's better to see what's going on underneath. I do have some treading videos out there too that you can check out. In fact, it's a CSS and treading article, kind of a breakdown video in it. And you guys can make a video, check out this, compare it, and see if it works for you. I'll put this over here on Instagram too, but it's called Swimming the CSS and Treading Water Step-by-Step Breakdown Videos. So there's some good videos in there, as well as some stretching that can help you with mobility of the hips, knees, and ankles that will make your treading better. That is for sure. Let's see. Other questions. I don't see any more questions. All right. I could be missing one. If I am, I apologize, but let's share this again. See what we got here. All right, so we're going to kick off the wall. I like this. See that streamline? One hand on top of the other, arms straight, biceps squeezing the head, get you across the pool like a rocket.
Okay.
But here's where it falls apart. This is a lazy
Can't think
arm
of this
pull
as like a little
lazy
walk in
kick.
the park.
If you're
Gotta
wondering
put a
why
little
you're
more
going
effort
slow, is
into
because
your
you're not
pull
pulling hard enough and
and
you're not kicking hard
your
enough.
kick
And you're
needs to
kicking
be
a
more
little
of a
too
whip
big
kick
too.
from
You
the knee
notice
down
you're almost
versus
doing the splits
you
when
open
you do this
your hips up
scissor
so
kick.
big.
It doesn't need to be
It
that
just
big.
makes
It
it
can be
weak
a more of a
and
whip
slow
kick from the
because
knee
you're
down.
like putting on the brakes every time you do it.
But this is good. And you skip the breaststroke pullout, which I would
Okay.
recommend.
A little slow.
The problem here is you're overgliding. One missing, two missing, three missing.
Can't think of this as like a
And
little
you're not
walk
kicking
in the
hard
park.
enough, so you're gliding slowly.
Got to put a little more effort.
If you want to speed
into
this up, you
your
got to
pull
pull harder and kick harder.
Your kick needs to be more of a whip
That's
kick
the
from the
fix for
knee
that.
down.
I'll get
versus
another video of this guy
you open
pulling harder
your
and
hips
kicking
up
harder,
so
and you'll see a
big.
big difference because
It just makes
right
it
now
weak
this
and
is
slow because you're like putting on the brakes every time you do it.
34-second swim, which for 25 yards. So that is, I mean, if he were able to maintain this pace right here, it's going to be, almost 11 minutes by the time he finishes this swim. So I've read mixed thoughts. Exhaling in water strictly through the nose or a combination of mouth and nose? That's a good question because I was actually doing both yesterday. I was doing a little hypoxic freestyle pyramid where I was building up to like 4 strokes per breath, 6 strokes per breath, 8 strokes, 10 strokes, got up to 12 strokes per breath was doing sets 150 in that and then came back down. And so I tried both ways. I tried, turning, inhaling, exhale just through my mouth. And I found that went really fast. All right. So on the shorter strokes per breath, that's real easy to do. But when I got up to 8 and 10, 8 and 10 strokes per breath, I had to do it one of two ways. Start exhaling through the nose right after a breath, and that took about 8 seconds, 8 strokes to get it all out. So by that 8th stroke, I'm turning to inhale. The other way I did it was on 10, I just couldn't do it. I mean, you can if you do it really slow. Couldn't maintain it, I should say. So what I did was I did 5 strokes on a breath hold, and then the last 5 I exhaled out of my mouth. And that took about 4 to 5 strokes before I needed air, turn and breathe. So my advice is play around with both and see which one you like. Let's see. How should the bottom arm pull? To the side, straight down, tucked in. When should that begin? As you breathe, when your face breaks the water. Yeah, great question. I'm going to tell you right now. So a lot of people bring that bottom arm and take it just like straight down, almost like, you know, a freestyle pull, right? And take it all the way down. That's one way to do it. I don't like it because it makes the recovery of both arms slightly delayed, right? So what I like to do is that top arm comes all the way down just like a freestyle. I'm turning my head with the top arm. Now I do a breaststroke skull, or like a breaststroke skull they call it, with the bottom arm, and then I meet here. So it's going to look like this. My top arm's all the way down to my waist. My bottom arm comes up here. So it's like right at my belly, and then they both recover together. And I am top arm turn, inhale with the bottom arm. So I always say TTBB. Turn with the top, breathe with the bottom, kick and glide. So I start the bottom arm pull as I am inhaling. My face is now out of the water with that top arm. I am now immediately pulling the bottom arm and starting my inhale during the bottom arm, and then I kick, hold that glide. Oh, good question though. Group PT idea: rucking with different weight. Rucks one person. Yeah, I like that. Switch every mile. Ooh, I like that. That's kind of like group treading workouts where you hold a brick and you pass it around to everybody every 30 seconds. Yeah, I like that. Great idea. Another way to do that too would be either, you take off the whole ruck and trade it with somebody, or you have an easy system where everybody has like a bunch of 10 pounds of sandbags. Somebody has 4, somebody has 6, somebody has 8, right? And you just pull 2 sandbags from each if you wanted to do that. You wouldn't have to take them off that way. um, but yeah, I like that. Stu, I'm swimming 2 miles per day. Damn, that's a lot. 4,000. That's 4,000 yards a day. Not impossible. I mean, swimmers swim probably 10,000 a day. Um, Also, a 26-mile without fins, a 26-minute mile without fins. That's great. Always my legs have been floating forward during the glide phase. How can I fix that? I'm not sure. I mean, the fact that you're swimming that much, you're swimming more than I am. Um, so who am I to say that's wrong? I mean, I think, legs happen to float sometimes. Um, my advice would be to, instead of like just letting them sit and float, maybe add in some flutter kicks and it will keep them underwater better. Does that make sense? Just the same way if they were sinking, you would add in flutter kicks to keep them, you know, 4 or 6 inches from the surface. Maybe I might be misunderstanding your question, to be honest with you. I always thought you were in your late 20s until I saw your recent Instagram post and realized you were more early 30s. Well, I really appreciate that because I am mid 50s. Yep, that's real gray. Real gray here. In your opinion, what's the best way to go about preparing for buds after passing the PST? Would progressing in mileage and then doing phase 2, 3 be a good idea? That's an excellent idea. In fact, that is my number one go-to generic answer. Yes, phase 1, then phase 2, 3. Play around with phase 4 grinder PT if you want, just to test yourself, because there is a little Hell Week simulator in there where it's like you're probably putting in about 30 hours a week of workouts, which is nowhere near Hell Week, but it's still challenging, like 3 a days. Yeah, build up to that, obviously. Don't just jump into it. But yeah, progressing in mileage, running 4-mile timed runs, swimming 2-mile swims with fins, progressing up to that has to be done. Building some, put a ruck on and get in the sand if you have it. If you don't have sand, get on hills. If you don't have hills, get on a Stairmaster, um, and build those legs to handle the loads of boats and logs and lunges with weight and things like that. That's your next progression. If you want to get through the training, everybody gets to it. Well, not everybody. Everybody that passes the PST get to it, but unfortunately, people skip phase 2 of tactical fitness and don't prepare to get through it. Do you have any chance to know if a wing scapula is a DQ? I don't think it is. I've read conflicting stuff. The impact it has on my range of motion is negligible and it sticks out big time. No, but I would just go on YouTube, look for exercises that help with that. Um, Personally, I don't think it's that big a deal. I think a lot of people think it is, but I've seen it, over the years as well, and people crank out push-ups and bench press and have no problem with it. Make sure you're just balancing out any push exercise with a proper pull exercise as well, just to develop that upper back shoulder girdle, and I think you'll be fine. Let's see. In your experience, does physical fitness athleticism peak, and how does it change as you age? Declines linearly or exponentially? Good question. I think I don't think it's a little linear, but I don't think you can say it universally linear. I'd say if you're still active, all right, I'm still active at 55. I did a 2-hour workout today. Awesome. Probably go swimming this afternoon. Great. So I'm still active, and I can say it has declined linear, but at a very slight slope. So maybe I peaked here and I'm slowly starting to decline. I can just see it. I'm swimming slower, running slower, not as strong as I was, not as fast as I was, in sprinting and stuff like that. So I can definitely see it, but it is a much less steep slope. So linear this way or linear this way, right, is going to be a whole lot better for you, right? You might be able to keep up. You might be able to keep up with the young guys if your linear is at this slope versus this slope, right? If it is coming down sharply, that is usually because, and that would be more an exponential loss or decline, and it's usually because you've quit working out. So you quit training, you will have exponential decreases in everything across the board. You will look more like a chair than you will a physical specimen, especially if you're sitting down all day and not doing anything. So, yes, I am fighting it as best I can. And I think I'm doing a pretty good job. I think the thing that helps me the most are these type of programs, right? Because seasonal tactical fitness periodization is something I have been doing since I was 30 years old. So 25 years now, where I focus on cows and cardio over the spring and summer, kind of peak and all of that in the summer. And then in the fall, I start decreasing the mileage, decreasing the reps, adding weight vests, and then we add dumbbells, and then we add barbells over this fall and winter to get a little stronger, Runs are shorter but faster, so we're working on speed and agility. And then we come back around to the spring and do it again. And this little bell curve or sine wave of peaks and valleys has been very helpful in making that decline linear at a much smaller slope. That is a great question. That deserves an article. I like that. Is the best way to get better at doing more push-ups, pull-ups is to just do more push-ups and pull-ups? Yes, but you don't have to rely on just that. You can add weight vests to pull-ups. You can add deadlifts and work on your pulling muscles, work on your grip. You can add uh, barbell rows, dumbbell rows to work on your pulling muscles. Push ups. Something I like to do is to do a bench press, let's say moderate weight, like close to your body weight, max reps. So you only get 10, maybe 12, and near failure, and then fall off of that bench, rack it, turn over, land on your belly, and go right into push ups. See how many push ups you can get at that point. Because I promise you, that is going to mimic the last 15, 20 seconds of a 2-minute fitness test where one or two push ups is really hard to do. So it's a great way to push that like muscle stamina threshold with doing fewer reps. So you don't have to do 2 minutes of push ups to feel the pain of 2 minutes of push ups. All you have to do is one big set of bench press, 10 to 12 reps of challenging weight, drop off, do some push ups, and it will feel almost identical to your last 30 seconds of a 2-minute push up test. You can do the same thing with pull ups. To do a weight vest pull up, many as you can. Take the weight vest off, pull ups, many as you can. Then you can follow that up with some dumbbell rows and some bicep curls and work on your pull and push muscles that are all a part of the push up and pull up. So the answer is yes and no. I think doing more pull ups and push ups will make you better at pull ups and push ups, but you can also develop some strength that will in turn um, have a foundation of strength where that muscle stamina can also grow. So I always tell people your first pull up and your first push up is a strength exercise. Your 20th is a muscle stamina exercise. So my dog is talking. Let's see if I got any more questions over here on Instagram. Um, what is his problem? He's a beagle. If you could choose one thing to prepare more for buds, what would it be? Um, for me, it was just running. Running was my personal gut check every time we ran. Now, I never failed to run. I never got gooned. But it was just the thing that I knew I sucked at. I worked really hard to get good at it. Running a 28, 29-minute 4-mile timed run was in my zone. Probably my fastest I hit was a 26:30 4-mile timed run. Um, so I wasn't horrible at it, but it required every bit of me. It wasn't just an aerobic pace for me to do that. It was putting out. I had to fuel up and make sure I was ready for this run, both mentally, physically, and energy wise, to be able to maintain the pace that I need. Would you recommend swimming 5 days a week when training for buds? Sure, if swimming's a weakness. If you grew up and you were a competitive swimmer, no. I would actually swim maybe once a week if you were a swimmer, because you don't need it. Right? It just depends. If you need it, swim more. If you don't, lift more. If you don't need to lift more, do more calisthenics and cardio. If you need to run more, run more. All right. When does the slow decline begin? Um, Good question. I would say late 30s, probably when I started seeing it. I will say this, in my early 30s, I was a little beat up. So I had to kind of rebuild myself. And that's where I came up with this model periodization program that is a full year of training, but it's not redlining everything all at the same time. It peaks and valleys appropriately. Um, so yeah, I would say about 38 it happened. And it was also tied into an injury, right? I pulled a hamstring at 38. Took me about 6 months to recover from a pulled hamstring. And it was just stupid. I sprinted too fast too soon and wasn't really warmed up as I should have been. Didn't feel like I needed to. Everybody else was running fast. I was like, oh, what the hell? Tweaked a hamstring. I wasn't horrible, like it didn't bleed and it wasn't bruised, but it took me a good 6 months to be able to run even at goal pace again. So after that, I saw the decline coming. So I don't know if it was associated with an injury or if that injury was just a product of the decline, if that makes any sense. But if you ever look at like competitive triathletes and runners, when they're in their mid 30s, late 30s, they're crushing their event. Like aerobically, they're they are peaked. Um, and some of the strongest guys are older as well. So, you're not necessarily, I guess it depends on the activity because speed and agility will definitely go probably first. Um, Strength and power can probably last a little bit longer. Strength definitely, power maybe not. Um, and cardio endurance can definitely last probably the longest, and muscle stamina. I noticed today that I am still doing pretty well with the calisthenics, doing pretty well with the swimming pace. I can still run, but I can't run that fast. I can just feel it, mostly because of knees and hips versus heart and lungs. So there you go. They've got so many things that causes a decline that I don't know how to really explain it other than um, tell you that it does happen. And I'd say probably before you're 40 is when you'll start seeing it. Remember your motto: live to compete, not just survive. Yep, it does help because I promise you, where the next generation of that motto became, you never think about quitting if you think about winning, right? So it's kind of an explanation of what that means. Like, if you're focusing on competing and winning something, I promise you, you'll never think about quitting in the same sentence or even paragraph, right, of thinking. Tom, who is a gentleman and my age as well, I agree with you, mid 30s, beginning of decline, but an injury has changed the slope of mine recently. Need to fix that. Yeah, it can definitely do that, man. I think a lot of the decline is tied in with injuries. You add in 50 pounds overweight, and it's even worse. And 50 pounds overweight, you think that's a lot, but I tell you what, it sneaks up on you. I mean, unfortunately, you gain 5 pounds a year, and it's almost invisible to see. But 10 years later, you're 50 pounds overweight. Now you're older, probably deconditioned even more, and you're 50 pounds overweight. So now it's going to be a harder hill to climb to get out of that hole. So my advice is just try to stay in that close to college weight as you can, unless you were a late bloomer. I was kind of the reverse. I was like heavier in high school than I was in college, just because I was powerlifting and football and eating. um, so, what do you recommend for rest time during the 100-meter, 6 to 8 strokes per breath, 100-meter CSS? Minimal, but there's nothing wrong with a 10 to 15-second rest if you need it. Sorry, I'm going to have to go. The dog's driving me nuts. Is there any problem with, last question, is there any problem with doing a swim workout immediately following a run? No, I do it all the time. Pool near me is only available first thing in the morning. Usually I run first thing in the, yeah, that's what I do. I usually run to the pool, swim, and then run back. In fact, a couple of my workouts are filled with run, swim, run workouts because they work really well. But you can switch your run to the afternoon. It's up to you. It doesn't matter. I personally like to swim, then go run, or vice versa. I do it both ways. I usually swim last now just because I'm right there. I take a shower. I'm clean for the rest of the day. It's a good way to go. All right. Hey, folks, I'm going to cut it short, see what my dog's howling about. But I'll be back next week. It's already been 56 minutes anyway. So it's time to go. I appreciate your time. You guys check out StuSmithFitness.com. Got a ton of articles over there. Everything from swimming straight to doing more pull-ups and push-ups. You can find them in the little search section over there. Email me, stu@stusmith.com, if you have any questions. But if you go to StuSmithFitness.com, you'll see a big store there. Use the Live15 coupon code, save yourself 15%, books, ebooks, and personalized coaching. Happy to help. You guys have a good one. We'll see you later.